Last year, our first in this time of COVID, I finished my message with a wish. Hope to see you again soon. Well, obviously it did not happen. Most of you have had to stay home, and Betty and I have not been able to go anywhere beyond the borders of Negros Oriental because of travel restrictions. Well, we did get over the border once to Cabancalan City in March when we picked up the newest member of our family, a beagle we named Bagel, who was born in Bacolod. Betty and I got our second shot of AstraZeneca vaccine in July because we were both over 65, but that was before the spread of the COVID variants Delta and now Omicron, which means that we will stay hunkered down here until the situation seems more stable. As you can imagine, it's very frustrating. We get regular reports on how the virus is doing in Dumaguete, where the city was listed as a level 4 hotspot for a while, only now to be reduced to level 2, which may have happened not because of any real change in the incidence of COVID infections, but to stimulate tourism and the seasonal shopping frenzy of the Burr months. A year ago, there were no vaccines at all. Nowadays, there are some vaccinations, but no more than 20% of our fellow Dumagueteños may have received them. The university had negotiated for a supply of vaccines through COVAX, the COVID-19 Vaccines General Access Program, an international collaborative effort co-run by the World Health Organization and the United Nations. But these have been delayed because of the overriding need for vaccines in India, where they were to be manufactured and shipped here. So we wait and hope and pray. But there is some good news. Sunday service at Silliman Church has gone live again. Only 50 people with reservations made are allowed in to attend, but the services continue virtually, being streamed over YouTube and Facebook internationally, and DYSR Radio 95.1 FM locally. Over this past year, the quality of Sunday broadcasts has improved steadily, and I hope the broadcast will continue even after the COVID pandemic is behind us, since they do allow the university community to reach out to its vast diaspora of alumni and alumni overseas. Have you had a chance to watch any of these? More likely, you are aware of the successful shift from face-to-face classroom instruction to virtual learning wherever possible. This has been one of Silliman University's great achievements this past year. The skills being acquired in maximizing our capabilities for digital learning are likely to remain to enrich the university's range of pedagogical practices long after the COVID pandemic is gone. And yes, someday the pandemic will be over. And we hope you will return to finishing your studies and bring others with you. The campus remains an unusually quiet place as those of us who remain here plan for the day of our reunion and healing. We need to mourn those who didn't survive the pandemic, both here in Dumaguete and wherever you and your loved ones must remain for the time being. But we must look forward with hope for a future in which to respond to the challenges which the whole world must face if we are ever to bring peace on earth and goodwill to all humanity. Christmas, you already know, is the time of year when we try to renew such hope, where we look for the comfort and joy that enables us to go forward refreshed, to engage in the work to which the Lord is calling us. In years past, I've used this chance to greet you all, to discuss some of the symbols of Christmas, both secular and traditional, to help us envision the hope with which we are gifted by the birth of the Christ. This year, I want to say something about Christmas trees. Trees, especially here in the Philippines, have spiritual significance. They are watching us. The spirits, hopefully benevolent spirits dwell in those trees. But the foreigners, the missionary Catholics and Protestants, taught us to select and decorate a special tree for Christmas. Now, what is that about? Well, growing up in Ohio, in the USA, and living for a long time in Chicago, the Windy City, places where snow-covered pine trees may be taken for granted, where Christmas dreams of a white Christmas covered with snow came true nearly every year, well, at least until climate change began to be felt. In that northern world, going out and getting a Christmas tree, then setting it up at home, where the smell of freshly cut pine now filled the air, and everyone helped out decorating the tree with blinking lights, colored streamers, shiny tinsel to stand in for the snow and ice, and time-honored Christmas ornaments. The tree was a symbol of hope, but mostly of our hopes for the presents that Santa Claus and his helpers would place under the tree, to be opened on Christmas Day as the family would gather for the feast. When Betty first brought me home to Dumaguete for Christmas some 15 years ago, we had to have a Christmas tree. So Waki, at that time the youngest of our Apo, took me down to Lee Plaza, where we picked out an artificial tree meant to be decorated in the Western way. I suppose we could have foregone that Christmas tree, dismissing it as a legacy from our colonial past. But if we got rid of it, what would be left of Christmas? Since all of it, the stories, the songs, the presents, the mythologies, secular and religious, could be dismissed for similar reasons. So we've kept that Western tree, and right now it is decorated once again, and blinking colored lights over in the rooms where Iwaki still lives. But it now has a companion, a tree made of bamboo, decorated with flowers and ribbons and bows, more in keeping with our Filipino heritage. We haven't given up on Christmas trees either, at home in Kamanhak or here on campus, but maybe we are repurposing them. Here on campus, a week or so ago, we had the official lighting of the Silliman University Christmas tree. It is an unusual structure built on detachable poles in the triangular shape of a tree covered in burlap, I imagine, and then decorated. This is the third year I think we've used this tree. Each year it has featured a message about our caring for the environment, our common home on planet Earth. The first year, empty wine bottles were hung as decorations to demonstrate the university's commitment to recycling. Last year's decorations were more directly about our home beside the sea, with paddles and small boats, as well as some images of the fish who have lived under the sea, upon whom we depend for our food and well-being. Now this year, the tree, as you can see, is filled with large medallions created by local artists, celebrating the lives of the many sea creatures who live right offshore in the coral reefs, along this stretch of coastline in Negros Oriental. I'm not quite sure all the reasons were for choosing these medallions, but they do send a message of hope, coming on the heels of the university's resistance to the so-called reclamation project that would forever transform Dumageta's coastline into a smart city for the apparent benefit of the developers and the wealthy tourists they hope to attract here. Now there are signs on campus. No to 174. And not just on campus, but throughout the city, especially in front of the churches that have joined to support the resistance. The project has been shelved for the time being, but it may surface again after the elections next year. At any rate, in my imagination, these beautiful medallions are meant as a defense of our neighbors, the sea creatures with whom we share this coastline, whose homes, especially in the coral reefs, will be destroyed if the reclamation project goes forward. At one meeting, the project's promoters dismissed our concerns, saying that the coral reefs are already dead and that there's nothing out there but wastewater in need of development. But this is not true. The university's various programs studying coastal resources have documented the living reality of the sea creatures and their habitats, have photographed them, and monitored how things are going in the coral reefs. The medallions are a way of celebrating the wonderful life that we share along this coast and should remind us all of what can be lost if we fail in our stewardship responsibilities. The medallions indeed are a sign of hope. Not only is it false to say that the coral reefs are dead, but it is wrong to think we can do anything we want with these habitats so long as we have the technology and the financial resources to do so. But now there is hope that the reclamation project, consistent with the relevant laws, both national and local, will be stopped permanently. There is hope that the sea creatures will continue to share coastal Negros with us, and that we will learn how to interact with them with appropriate policies for coastal resource management, so that the fisher folk, as well as those of us whose concerns are mostly recreational, can find a way to live together harmoniously, which means living together in justice and peace. None of the sea creatures celebrated in the medallions on this year's Christmas tree can survive outside the waters, their natural habitat. They cannot speak for themselves. They cannot defend their right to life. That is one of the things that Silliman University dedicated to the Via Veritas Vita, embodied in the child who was born on Christmas, can and must do. The university has stewardship responsibilities as part of its basic commitment to Christian faith and values. So we honor our neighbors by depicting their lives with us as part of our symbol of the healing we seek at Christmas. We hope that the world can come to its senses before it's too late for any of us to survive. Our Christmas tree is a symbol of hope. I hope and pray for the day when you can once again be with us and share in our hope for healing, not just among ourselves, but also for the environment. We need you here. Come home as soon as you can. Merry Christmas.